We were all asked to go underground.
We have been sleeping on the cold floor for the past 1 day, and it's really hard.
And many people were having asthmatic problem and health issues.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Chienza chat. So in this podcast, we are going to talk about something which is a bit different, actually a lot different from the earlier two episodes. So in this one, we're going to talk about something in which the topic, the tone, and the messages put across through this episode is going to be a lot different. It's about something that has been going on in the world since a week now, and there has been a lot of conversation around it and on social media. So since we have a platform, so we thought that we can, from our side, can add to the conversation, not just add to the arguments and the discussion and just add to the noise basically, which is there on social media regarding the issue. And I think by this time you might have understood that what the issue is about. It's a pretty big crisis now in the world. And we just wanted to be a part of the conversation. And we just wanted to let you know that we are not uh, subject matter experts on this particular topic. So, uh, you guys, we urge you to please comment below your thoughts. Feel free to share your views and opinions as well. So, today on this podcast, we have one more person along with Chi and Shah, and we thought it's necessary to involve more voices, and we thankfully found one more voice. And I hope that through this podcast, we can create some kind of awareness and start or initiate some amount of conversation today. So, Chinmay, do you want to
Yeah.
go and say something?
Yeah. So hi everybody. This is Chinmay here as usual. And along with me we have a very special guest today. Devanshu, say hi.
Hi everyone, it's really nice to be here.
Yeah. So like Trisha said, this is not going to be the typical geopolitical thinking of everything from a geopolitical angle because we clearly aren't geopolitical experts. We are just a bunch of college students, 20 year olds, 20, 19, 21-year olds who think that given the platform that we have, it makes sense to speak about this and ensure that the awareness is made, right? And that is why, given the environment that we see around us regarding this particular subject, we want to speak about that, right? And a very crucial point over there, which we think most people do not talk about here, is um, making making jokes about the entire topic, right? Now you might wonder that they're just jokes and how does it matter, right? And I would like to quote Ricky Gervais over here. I remember this man saying once in his tweet that there is nothing in this world that you can't joke about. You can joke about whatever the beep you want, right? Yeah, but I don't disagree with that, to be honest. In fact, I'm a huge Ricky Gervais fan myself, given his writing and sense of humor and whatever, right? But what the pretext to that particular meme or tweet is that there is a particular time for a particular joke, right? You cannot crack the joke on the wrong time, right? So if I were to crack certain kind of jokes, say 5 years down the line, once this entire thing has resolved, hopefully, then okay, fine. If you would consider it as dark humor and you would let it pass, but not now. And what kind of jokes are we talking about, right? We are talking about jokes that sort of insensitivize the entire situation that those which are going on all about in Ukraine right now, right? Now, we came across these multiple jokes when we were going through. And for example, I'll read out one to you. Um,
More so, I think when the situation is right now going on, the crisis is unfolding, and we can't do anything about it. Even though we are so connected in this world, we can't really be of any help like as common citizens. I mean, the least we can do is not really make a mockery out of it or any of the situations that is arising
Exactly.
due to conflict
Exactly.
between the
Because
two.
oftentimes people do not understand that is that when I make a joke about a particular individual who is in a state of crisis, then that invalidates his or her uh, emotion or problem completely, and that does not help anybody. And what it eventually does is it misleads one into thinking that all of this is just rubbish. There's nothing to worry about. So let's just go about our day as usual, right? But that is like messing up the entire framework of what we should be concerned about and what we shouldn't be concerned about, right? So, for example, I'll read out one to you. Um, there was this forwarded joke which I got a couple of days ago, or mostly when the war started. It goes on, and I quote: "Within an hour of a war declaration, Russian artillery and tanks are moved into interior parts of Ukraine for a full-fledged invasion. If this was Mumbai, they would still be stuck on the Western Express Highway between Goregaon and Kandivali. Thank you, BMC." Okay,
Wow.
no, it's not appreciated, dude. You okay? I
I don't
understand. It might seem silly.
know. Exactly. It can be funny at the start, but when you actually
Yeah,
think about the whole situation, there, I mean, it just then diffuses the fun that you just had in your
exactly.
mind about it.
And there was another one which said MU and Nibas on their way to resolve the Russian Ukraine Russia conflict. I'll tell you the problem with what that joke is, right? As I said earlier, what that does is it completely gives you the impression that it's just a small thing. These brothers will go and just clear it out, right? And
Mhm.
not now.
Only people happening.
Yeah, don't say it now.
And
And
what I'd like to
Yes,
add is like if we make jokes or memes about people who are suffering, it is actually very insensitive of us because like they don't have access to basic things like most Ukrainian people. Like there was this news that the internet connectivity is also lost in some parts of Ukraine. And when people are struggling for their life and death, and the other part of the privileged world, as we can call it
yeah,
now, they are just sitting there doing nothing, making jokes about them, and it's just very wrong
so
on a
okay,
moral
I
level.
mean, just not the Ukrainian people. There are like a lot of people from different countries who are stuck over there, and their situation is really bad, and they're like without their basic sanitation, food, and everything. They're just living there in underground someplace, as you all might have uh, seen videos on the internet and in the news. I mean, the situation is really harsh over there,
because
to
I'll
say
tell
the
you
least.
what you guys are telling, right? Devanshu spoke about a privileged section of the society cracking jokes on a not so privileged and not so privileged one at that moment. This so there are two concepts in comedy which go by punching up and punching down, right? So very clearly, it's quite intuitive what they mean. Punching up is I can crack a joke about the Ambanis, right? कि तुम्हारे पास इतना पैसा है, you wasted 700 crores on your daughter's wedding, ha 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 ha. That is my पूर्वजों की salary and all those things. But Ambani cracking a joke कि oh your salary is only 20 lakhs per annum. That's like मेरा एक second का this thing. So that is a punching down kind of a joke, right? Uh, so that is what essentially is happening.
I was watching the news and they were saying that there are so many people who are now saying that Indian government is not doing nothing, to
Uh,
students over there. And mind you, yesterday one of the Indian students
right,
got
yeah.
killed. So it's not really clear now that how he got killed exactly, but these people are saying that the government is doing nothing. But then one person like who came on the interview in the news, he said that we can't really blame the government because they are trying as their best, and it's not that there will be something coming like there will be an attack, air attack, and those Russians won't know that if that person is Ukrainian or
Hmm.
Russian or Indian or anyone, right? They are just
True.
going to just bombshell and everything. This is gonna go. So it's not really on their hands, like who is getting killed, but like the evacuation, they are taking their steps to do as much as they can, and people also have to cooperate and not just keep on blaming organizations.
That's
So
true.
that is also like a balancing thing that we need to do.
That's
And
very true.
there are a lot of things in the on the internet also. There are like news that some guy is not wanting to leave Ukraine without their dogs and everything, and people
Yeah.
are finding it hard side. But also at the same time, there are comments in the comment section which say that who are these people? Why are they not leaving? Now
Uh,
they are going to later leave the government, and now they don't want to leave. So I mean,
hmm,
you can't really take sides over here. See, I'm taking the side of these students and I'm taking the side of the government. I think it's also about that what the person right now believes that is important for him, or like what the person is feeling right now. Right? I mean, all of a sudden, no one really anticipated that this is actually going to happen. You know, in a modern world. So people are not really ready yet. Some of them might not be ready yet to come to terms with the fact that now I have to leave everything and go. And
hmm,
so their sentiments mixed, and then whatever the government is taking action. So everything is involved. We can't really take sides now. And if we
correct.
take sides now, I mean, again, as I said earlier, that this kind of senseless wars are going to happen. I think we need to understand that. So,
And also, like, ironically, Russia is one of the countries which has the veto power, right? So I just went through this article by UN itself, where it's like Russia itself is blocking the entire uh, process of, because like Russia is itself the attacker. It would not want to go against itself. And there are countries like China and India, which decided to remain abstain and they didn't even vote.
Yeah.
So after this, I read a press release by the UN itself, where the general secretary said, like, quoted, and I quote, like, "We the UN will never give up." This is not a Pinterest board where you're just like giving, motivational quotes, "Never give up. Tomorrow will
Yeah.
be better than today." Giving quotes and just referring to these is not going to solve any kind of problem. First of all,
So
we want peace. I mean, yeah, we do want peace, but like, what about it? We just
and
can't put
also,
like things.
like, a lot of powerful countries are not imposing any kind of sanctions on Russia just because they are scared, like Russia might invoke their contracts or cut supply,
no, but
whatever.
that's the thing with sanctions, right? Sanctions are bound to affect your economy when you apply them, right? As a
Right.
I mean, it's like an inevitable thing, and I think that's why they're kind of temporary, usually. And so yeah, so that ways, point being, it's affecting everyone, right? And speaking of, now we are experiencing all of this in the most materialistic way, right? But if you were to go back to Ukraine, वहाँ पे कैसा कैसा चल रहा है? You guys have seen the videos definitely. Those
Yeah,
anecdotal pieces are really very, very horrifying, right? Um,
that is when people have like, I mean, thanks to them that they have come up and spoken about it, and like they have recorded themselves in those situations to, to keep in mind that we need to make the world aware of what is happening.
hmm,
So there are people who are trying to help, via social media. I think in the States, very easy to for the message to travel across. So they are also trying their level best in that situation, being in that situation. I mean, uh,
and it kind of really hits you, right, when an Indian standard over there in your native language tells you कि क्या हो रहा है वहाँ पे, right? So I remember coming across this official news of Bombay video, right? And there was this Indian guy, and obviously Indian student, obviously, वो station में कहीं पे they were stranded, and he was explaining कि क्या क्या हो रहा है वहाँ पे, and he had been stuck here for God knows how many hours, all those things, man. So yeah,
so and
it,
also from like the even like these uh, horror type clips that is going around on the internet. There have been also like good, uh, heartwarming clips that have been doing the rounds, and
yeah,
also there are like these in this one news channel. They were saying that there were these iconic moments in the war, itself which was happening. So there was this one person who was a Ukrainian who was trying to basically stop the Russian tank
Yeah, yeah,
from
yeah.
invading him. He was just literally there, barehanded, no arms, ammunition, nothing. But he was just trying. And that's like the spirit, I think. And we don't know what happened to that person. But it's really brave of that person to do that. And it could go down as one of the iconic moments from the war. So,
I actually remember this one uh, post that I had sent you with two babies, one with a Russian
Yeah,
slinger, and both of them are like, their heads are just like
together.
this. Yeah. So, yeah, this kind of things are happening.
Again, I think like winning a battle is one thing, and Russia may win the battle, but ultimately it's not going to win the war because it's easy to hold on to a country. Like it's easy to defeat a country and like capture territory, but to hold on to the people and like make everyone follow you in a certain way is very unlikely because we've seen so much resistance from the Ukrainian side, and it's quite clear like the general public doesn't want to be under the puppet rule of Russia. So I think that is a factor as well, which we should like, which countries should look into because there might be a situation in which, sorry,
No,
um,
go on, go on.
yeah,
yeah.
there might be like if it was a different case, like the people in Ukraine also wanted to be under the Russian rule, then it was a different case altogether because here we've seen how much the people love their president who didn't choose to flee the country when
Yeah.
crisis hit, and all of
Exactly.
these
I
things
think
actually counts a lot. Um, like especially when during these dire times, if there is a president or a ruler is with you, the people feel that they're supported, they're heard, and they're safe. And even if we've seen like a lot of people are losing their lives and everything because of course like there have been nuclear attacks and all, but I think people are choosing to stay rather than to flee. Like I've seen a lot of people also do that,
yeah,
so that
there are
shows a lot.
like men who are like leaving their children and they're saying that they have to fight the war. And there was this one news also, right? Like a very old person uh, was like, I'm going to stay here in the country and fight for my grandchildren so that they can stay freely later. And it's just so involved and like even like the Russians who were like protesting on their streets. I mean, it's very sad that they are getting arrested due to protesting and everything. But like, uh, I think the bravery in the face of all of it is what
Correct.
is going to ultimately, uh, hopefully, end this.
You
Like,
know, adding on to what both of you said, there's clearly a sense of nationalism, so to say, in the entire country. And it's been evident in the course of history as well, right? Because if you guys know about that there was this Maidan revolution in 2014, right? So something happened, and the then president in 2014 of Ukraine voted opted not to include Ukraine in the EU, in the European Union, because Russia, Putin again at that point was ready to pay him $12.5 billion. So he was literally bribed out publicly कि मैं तेरे को $12 billion देगा और तू EU में मत जा, ठीक है? He did that and he sold out, and the public, lakhs and lakhs of people, uh, literally protested against this and overthrew this guy from his position, right? And then a new person was elected in his place. And after which, I think in 2018, 2017, 2018, this Volodymyr, the name is hard to pronounce, Volodymyr Zelensky was elected president. So it's been quite there, in that sense. So yeah,
And
and
I think
also,
uh, sorry.
yeah, there are.
yeah, yeah,
um,
there are people-
And I think with every Ukrainian man or every Ukrainian soldier dying, the sense of hatred towards Russia is deepening in
Yeah,
people. And hatred is a very strong emotion. And ultimately, even if today, like they rule Ukraine, people will overthrow him in no time. Like history always repeats itself. So, yeah, that's something to look into as well.
I think
Yeah,
we
yeah,
should also like talk about like if not talk about or like think how it could affect the youth, like the I mean, the
correct.
people who did not at all think that there could be it was still a point. World War III was like it was a joke, but now like thinking of the possibility, it just for me, as I said, that it just feels weird to witness it right now. I mean, it just feels like we have come across that and past that, and like I mean, we have never witnessed it, and we are seeing so many signs of evolution and so many that like people still want to do war, and I mean, I don't know what about evolution there. So, uh, what are the learnings from the war? We don't need war because it goes a lot of effort, money, uh, lives.
Nobody wants war, though. That's the thing. She's stuck. That's fine. So yeah, the point is nobody wants war. Even the most higher authorities do not want a war. So, but the fact that this could possibly lead to a World War III because of probable miscalculations is still significant. Um, but it's significant, but not too much. But the fact that it is still significant is really scary and horrifying, which should and it shouldn't happen, man. Nobody wants that. So let's not have it as simple as that. It's time.
I mean, just to save that humanity left in people.
Yeah,
I think what people are going to take away
yeah.
from this whole thing, how people are going to come together, that is the thing we should be looking out for now. And like we have seen, right, like apart from all those heartwarming videos and audios, there have been like messages put across which actually tells that there is still a chance of unity and strength when we are all standing together. So,
Devanshi, what do you take
I
back from
don't
this war?
know.
I think what I took back or what I learned is that people with great power don't always win, because
Don't always.
like don't always win in the long run. They might win in a short term, like if that's okay. God.
Yeah, yeah. You win the
Yeah.
battle, you won't win the war. Yeah, something like that.
True,
Hmm,
true. I mean,
true.
I still believe in the uh, saying that says that over bad, good always wins.
And
So,
also, I think humanity is very rare in people nowadays.
Hey, come on, man. Yeah,
no, no, we are thankful that you are alive,
yeah, yeah.
but,
You should be.
but
Yeah.
in the vast majority of people, but I
And I
mean,
think the nations around the world, what they could learn is that you should never take security for granted.
hmm,
Like most countries, like peace loving countries, as we call them, like let's say Singapore, they don't invest a lot in their military. And a lot of countries are there which don't anticipate that a country is going to come and attack them. So I think most countries will be tightening their security now, because
okay.
you never know.
Never know in this world what happens when you never know. And also, like, have you guys heard that thing where this one actress is being ridiculed by the internet on reciting a poetry which is addressed apparently to Putin, where she says that it's the upbringing of Putin, and it's like she is basically referencing to a poem, like an age-old poem where it's basically that if I was your mother and this could have been done differently, you would have been a different person. and people are just going on about how it's crazy and it's just promoting misogyny, like it's always targeting the mother. Uh, I mean, that is also very nonsensical as a couldn't even
Yeah.
hear her saying. So it's, I mean, well, people are trying, they are showing their voices and in any form possible, but at
Hmm.
the same time, ultimately, we have to just wait and see what happens. We can just create conversations and
Well,
tell people to
well, no,
think
whoa,
about
whoa, whoa,
them.
whoa, hold on, hold on. We don't always have to just wait. That's the thing. You can always help out the people in need in Ukraine.
Yeah,
And how can you do that? Now, there are going to be two kind of people who can help, right? Um, One is people like us who cannot probably directly provide materialistic goods or materialistic components to the people over there, maybe because we don't have direct access to that.
I
But
understand.
people like us can definitely voice their opinion, create awareness, which was basically the point of this podcast, this particular episode. And that's why we try to take it in a different sense as well, right? From the normal nature of the podcast. But there's another way which our kind of people can do this, forwarding certain resources or the links of certain organizations to people who can help in materialistic goods. Okay. Now, how can somebody help in materialistic manner? Um, if you are somebody who earns or can provide anything like that, we will be dropping down certain links of certain organizations where you can send out help out in any ways, right? Because it's really, and I remember this video from one of I remember one of these videos where one of the girls was like, we can't even use a washroom over here. There's and there are really bad hygiene problems. So anything of sorts which you can provide, which could possibly, it could be a fundraiser, right? It could be sending something to an NGO, donating over there, or
Hmm. And there are
there are,
people who can't eat and stuff. So
yes.
NGOs are there to help us.
If you want, you can follow this page called Direct Relief. It's a charity
All
organization.
the resources, and even if you want to, watch or see the memes or the videos that we have been talking about, just find them in
Yeah,
the description. We have added all of it.
and that's what it is,
So,
right? So there's a post by Global Citizen which says that if you're financially able, consider donating to the following organizations: um, United Health, United Health Ukraine, medical supplies, then UNICEF Ukraine for children and their education, then Care International for food, water, psychosocial support, and then there's Kiev. I hope I'm pronouncing the city's name right. The Kiev Independent to support journalists, right? And this is how you can possibly do this. And I would just like to end on one note that I think somebody mentioned about India today, right? So there was this. I was watching the news, and there was this reporter. His name is Gaurav something, if I'm not wrong. And he was on a train, right? A train which was stuck, and the guy is literally wearing the same jacket for the past 3 to 4 days. Okay, and he was walking on the train, and he hears music coming from somewhere, right? And he tries to follow it. The camera person is following him around, and there's this couple who's playing guitar in the middle of all this crisis, right? They're just standing, they're playing the guitar, and they're just trying to calm everybody down. Now, if that couple can make such a sweet gesture, then why can't we in our possible means? So,
Just wanted to conclude by saying that just do your bit, just do your bit in being good, and just uh, don't tolerate. I mean, I know it's not in your hand, but uh, as a whole, as in generally speaking, just do your bit as much as you can. Just uh, create conversations and just help people be more aware of whatever resources you have. Just help and just make people aware and uh,
do that, and then you can say, I would like to disagree with you. There is humanity left in this world.
sure. We have to believe it ultimately, right? To be able to see it
Yeah,
Ultimately, hope is what
in
runs the world.
others.
Yeah.
yes.
Exactly. So we have to hold on to it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah,
Goodbye,
that
guys.
that would be the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
So we have opted to not run any of our intro music and outro music in this podcast. We're not going to ask you to subscribe or like this episode. No, you can like this episode so that it reaches out to more people, and you could also do that by
Yeah.
sharing this episode to other people. So it's
Yeah,
a kind
that's the
request that
main-
you share it
this
to more and more possible people who could reflect back uh, on the message that we're trying to convey. So yeah, Devanshi and Trisha, Trisha, obviously it was very fun having you, and Devanshi, it was very lovely having you. So
It was lovely chatting about this because
yes,
this has been going on, and I remember like when it started, initially it was kind of I felt gloomy about it of all the
yeah,
situation, and I
Mm.
think it's better to talk if we can't do anything about it. So I think that's what we did, and
in
I
fact,
hope
one
we
of
were
the
successful here.
one of the first people that I suggested to Trisha that we should call upon a podcast for the next episode will be Devanshi. So yes, Devanshi.
Thank you so much for giving a platform to expose my views.
Glad you could make it
Great.
take up time. And you have to keep coming on the podcast, बाद में, okay? For further episodes.
I'd love that.
Chalo. Okay, that would be the end of the episode and fade out.